What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. This week we're going to have something that is kind of cool. We've been wanting to do this for a while. We've been talking about taking a deep dive into a movie, but this movie has a little bit of a uniqueness to it because it's got a true story behind it. And what we're going to do today is take the movie, actually both movies, 1 and 2, and compare them to the real life of what happened during that time.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Young Guns, as you can see right behind me. So,
Oh,
speaking of Young Guns, I'm Chris Adams, your host of the show, and
I'm Dirty Travis Rollins.
Dirty Travis Rollins.
Dirty Dave.
We call him Dirty Travis Rollins because he don't like to be in the water. I smell him all the way over here in Florida, and he's in South Carolina. Dirty dog.
I did another movie just right there.
Oh.
Remember? That was weird science. That was weird science, baby.
You, sir, are just too awesome. Let me tell you.
Heck yeah, this is gonna be an awesome show, man. Because it did to find out all the factual stuff that went along with it. It's kind of like Tombstone and what really happened to Tombstone and everything. It's like, but with Tombstone, we knew all that stuff happened when we watched the movie. With Young Guns, I'm about to turn 42, and I just found out that all this was like really real.
I mean, I knew when I saw Young Guns that it was based off of something, but only because, friends and family who had a love for the Wild West stuff and everything, the Old West. I knew it was based off of something, but I didn't know how much of it was based off was true in the movie and what wasn't. Because at the time, I'm just going to be honest, I didn't care about what was real and what wasn't. It was a great movie, and I loved the movie.
Honest to God. Heck yeah.
And when it comes to movies, I don't watch a movie because I want to know the real life of it. That's what I watch a documentary
That's
for.
what documentaries are for, yeah.
Hey, if I'm watching a movie, I want to be entertained in ways that I don't care what the real life of it
by
was.
golly,
You could have had E.T. You could have had E.T. come down and put his one finger in Billy the Kid's barrel and stop a bullet from coming out, and I would have cheered probably.
Heck yeah. And that's what that was their intent to make this movie too, was to make an enjoyable, entertaining movie, and they by golly did their job.
Yes. The first movie, Young Guns, was just too awesome.
No doubt.
And what
so quotable.
It is. There's so much, and I wished I had time to go in and it's not that I didn't have time today. The program I used to get the WAV files, I've completely lost out on. I've been trying to get that back all during the day, and I just didn't have time to get it, install it, and go look for stuff before the show started. So my apologies on that. I messed up there.
Yeah.
But there are so many great quotes.
Make you famous.
What's the second movie? But we'll go over so many. We'll go over some of the
Pretty
quotes.
sure he said it in the first one, didn't he?
Pretty sure no.
Might be there toward the end.
If he said it toward the end, I don't recall it.
I don't know.
Because in the second movie, they go to Chisholm's ranch, and he tells one of his ranch hands, he says,
he tells a lot of people,
make you famous.
He tells a lot of people that. You know what? I think it started with the pig. I think he told the pig, I'll make you famous.
I don't remember that. I hope they did not go the route of him telling a pig he'd make him famous.
I don't know, but for anybody out there listening that have not seen these two movies, go get them and watch them.
Especially if you're a Westerns fan. If you haven't watched Westerns, it's not big time.
Westerns are just 80s and 90s fan, and like, man, it's hilarious. It's awesome. It's sad. It's like you'll root for people. You'll be sad for people. It's like it's so awesome. Like Charlie. Oh, Charlie, man. I love Charlie.
Charlie Baldry was great.
Was the pugilist. He was the pugilist.
He tells him in the beginning, says, I'm a pugilist, but you wouldn't know about that, would you, pig boy?
You wouldn't know about that, pig boy.
Yeah. Let's go just start from the beginning here. Young Guns themselves, the regulators. Now, Billy the Kid was not originally a regulator in the movie. He was brought in by the owner of the ranch who has the regulators watching his ranch there for the cattle based off of the other rich dude, the rich rancher, which was what was that? No, was that Murphy or
Turnstile? Turnstile. It was the Turnstile's Young Guns. Murphy was the one that they were against. So in the movie too, remember Turnstile was played by.
Was it Turnstile or Tungstile?
Tungstile.
I think it's Tungstile.
It's Ton. It's Tunstall.
Tunstall.
Tunstall. Tunstall.
Yes.
But anyways,
Yes.
played by Terrence Stamp. So it portrayed him as an older gentleman, taking in
Yes.
young boys and educating them and this and that. When actually, in truth, Tunstall looked like that. He was quite a young gentleman himself.
24 years old when he died, when they killed him.
4 years old. And that man had a cattle ranch and was making money and taking in boys. And like, what was I doing at that age? Holy cow.
A lot. I mean, from what I read, it was a fairly good sized ranch of cattle. And
yeah.
The others did not like him moving in up there and trying to, run his store and his cattle and all that. Now, I don't know if he actually ran a store in real life or not. In the movie, he was running a store as well as he had cattle on his ranch.
Right.
And we said the other was based off of it was Murphy, right? That's who.
Murphy. That was Mr. Played by Mr. Jack Palance. Cool.
Yes. Yeah.
Refreshing. Aqua Velva.
That would be him. Yes.
I don't have the numbers, but I have a photo of him too, which he looks like quite the young man himself.
He definitely looks like he's all tidied up like a businessman would be.
Yeah, they were taking over and running stuff. Had hundreds of thousands, possibly even millions back then of dollars tied up in all of this. I mean, these are the gentlemen that built our country. I mean, if you really truly think about it.
That's true. This is true.
Yeah, that's
you got Murphy not liking Tunstall having his operation against him. You got in the movie where he's got his people always.
Well, Murphy was so in and not only that in the movies, they didn't like each other. I guess based on your horning in on my play, I think it touched on the politics maybe a smidge, not but
a little bit. But not much in the movie, though.
Right.
Not much.
So in reality, the war came about. The conflict between Murphy and Tunstall came about because Murphy basically monopolized the beef trade out there, and he was putting into place, the politicians that he wanted into place, and we're creating banks and bankers that we want. And Tunstall came out and was like, you know what, that's not how it's going to go down. We're going to fight against this. So. Yeah, he was kind of coming in and horning in and just kind of spitting in the face of Murphy, which we don't know that he was the kind benefactor that they portrayed him in the movies. In reality, he was a shrewd businessman. So he was wanting some of the action probably moreover than it was, I'm coming in to fight for the little guy.
I mean, I would think everybody would be out for themselves back then.
Absolutely.
Any movie you've ever watched that's based on that time frame, and any book that you've read or documentary you've seen, everybody was there to stake their claim and make a name for themselves. Whether you were doing it as a gunslinger, whether you were doing it as somebody that robbed trains and stole horses and cattle from people, whatever the case may be,
you were trying to build a dry good. If you had a dry goods store that you was trying to get,
whatever. I mean, you might have been
whatever it was,
a lawyer making a name for yourself in that time frame as well.
Might be chasing the gold rush or daggone. Yeah, there's all kind of stuff people was going after. 1,000 ways to make it.
Right, but it was always about making a name for yourself. So to believe that he was there to fight for the little man, I never really bought into that to begin with anyway.
No.
But in the movie, he's portrayed as the older gentleman, like you said, who would take the derelicts in off the street and have them watch over his ranch. He called them regulators. They see Billy the Kid running through town one day being chased by somebody. You hear gunshots going off, and he's like, great, there's going to be another hanging, I guess. Mm-hmm. But him and Doc Scurlock, who were going into town for stuff, actually pulled up by them and got him picked up into the buggy and told him to come on with them, and they'd get him out of there, basically, which they did. So you get him back at the ranch, and he got him up there. He's got to start like everybody else. He's got to earn his keep there. He's out there working. They got him working with the pigs, which gets the new guys picking on him and everything. Or I'm sorry, hacking on him, right?
They're hacking on him. They was hacking on him.
They just hacking on him is what they're doing.
Yeah,
and you get the infamous line from the first one for Charlie Bowdry, which we learn to appreciate so much more later in the movie. But Charlie Bowdry, you get the infamous line about how they're regulators. They work for him. They take care of his stuff, but you can't be any geek off the street.
Regulate any stealing of this here property.
That's right.
We're damn good, too.
Can't be any geek off the street. You're going to be handy with the steel, you know what I mean?
Earn your keep.
Which went to a great Warren G song, Regulate.
Absolutely.
Everybody
And then
loved that
later
song, man.
on, Dirty Steve, which I think what they called, I think the reason why they went with Arkansas Dave instead of Dirty Dave
But it was already
was
Dirty
because they
Steve in
called
the
it was
first one.
already Dirty Steve. Yeah.
Yeah.
So him and Dirty
What was Steve's last name? It was Dirty Steve.
Steve Dirt Stevens, Steve Stevens, Dirty Steve Stevens.
Dirty Steve Stevens. All right. It wasn't Steve Dirt either. Okay, that's Joe Dirt. Don't be confusing the great movies. Oh my lord.
Yeah. So let's do this. As far as the movies go, bam.
Yeah.
So first, here we go in our first movie here, The Young Guns, Chapter 1. From left to right, you'll have Dirty Steve Stevens. Next in line, you'll have Mr. Charlie Bowdry, the pugilist, who we were just speaking of. Then we got Billy the Kid himself right there, Mr. Emilio Estevez. Then Emilio. Then Lou Diamond Phillips played honestly my second favorite character. I don't know, it's a toss up between Chavez and Charlie. I like Charlie a lot too, but Chavez was the man. So you got Chavez there.
They're all fun characters, though, really.
Absolutely. Then you got Emilio's real life brother playing Mr. Dick, Mr. Richard Brewer, but they call him Dick in the show. And then, of course, you got Doc Skurlock right there, Mr. Kiefer Sutherland. And then we got over here in Young Guns 2, of course, we got Doc in the top. We've got what did we say? Arkansas Dave down here.
Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh.
Yeah, Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh. That's Christian Slater. And then we got Chavez again. And then I can't tell on either side of Billy there. Is that? I don't believe either one of them.
On either side of Billy.
That's the cousins. That's the cousins.
No, they're not cousins. One on the left is one that called himself Henry William French. He said that John Chisholm took his ranch like he took other people's ranch. So he had nothing left to fight for. When on the right is Balthazar Getty. He was the kid from Pennsylvania that wanted to ride with Billy. He said he wants to ride the trail.
The young cat. That's right. Yeah. So the other dude too, Billy gave him a name is Buckshot. That was a real poignant part of that movie. I felt like he told him his name was Buckshot Bill, and he's like, no, my name.
My name is Henry William French.
Yeah, this is gonna be my name right here. My name's what it is.
Yeah, well, that's a good name too.
That's a good name too. Yeah, that was there. That's a pretty heavy part of the movie. So since we showed that, we'll go ahead and pull up a really neat photo that we found. And here's.
I love this picture.
I love this one too. I might have to have this one framed and hanged on the house.
I don't talk about this a lot with a lot of people. I got certain friends that I've talked with about this stuff, for a long time, and I love. In the last 10 years or so, I've developed a pretty good love for the Old West stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The thing to bring a real life picture to screen for the Regulators from this We Love Young Guns. This is awesome. And the thing is, with the real deal with the Regulators, there was not 6 like you see in the movie. There was actually 11 or 12 Regulators that they had that were regulators, and one of them is missing, or 2 of them actually. Dirty Steve's not in here.
Yeah, Dirty Steve.
And the other Coe cousin, George Coe, was the second on top from the left, and he had a cousin that's not on this picture.
Correct. And there were more. There were even more than that as well. Afterwards, we got another alleged photo of the Regulators here. Picture taken in Pecos, Texas, in 1880. That was approximately 100 years before I was born. In the old town banks of the Pecos River, standing left to right, allegedly is Jim Markham, Charles Dixon Bowers, Bowers. Sorry, not Charlie Bowdry. An unidentified man, Billy the Kid, Jesse Evans, Luke Short, and sitting is unidentified, and John Abels.
Looks like Abels to me.
I believe it Abels. So yeah, and then one more that I found. So this one. Chris and I believe that the far left would be Bowdry, and then
we think it's Bowdry.
Yeah, we think it is.
It has a little resemblance to him, but it's not. It's not acknowledged in the picture of who's
right. Actually, there's only 2 that are acknowledged, and they think that second from left or second to the right. If you're reading like a book left to right, so the second person in the photo would be Billy the Kid, and then on the far right would have been Pat Garrett.
Yeah.
Who was very instrumental to the story, which I believe that would be Pat Garrett, because we have a photo of Pat here too. There's Pat.
Yeah, so it looks
that was the real Pat Garrett, and we got the retouched photo of what Billy the Kid looked like. So they were taking,
now,
and I would,
that right there, Travis. That right there is some. It's awesome they can do that. If you notice
yeah,
in the now, he was right-handed. Billy the
hmm
Kid was. He wasn't left-handed. They said some pictures depicted him as being left-handed because when they made those pictures at the time, it reversed the photo image.
right,
Yeah,
yes,
like we can do,
100%.
like we can do today on ours if we're editing pictures and everything. Back
Uh-huh.
then, when they took it, it automatically reversed it. To me, it is just very awesome that you can take a picture that old and clean it up so well, make it look right to where it looks more like a person that you. Because when you look at the left picture, it just looks so out of whack that you're like, man, that could be. He's one goofy looking guy. It looks like he's
Right.
almost. Is that Billy the Kid or is that Sloth from the Goonies?
Yeah, or hills have eyes, and that's one of the things as I was about to touch on too. With the digitizing and digital technology that we have too, especially with me coming from having some background in photography and doing restorations on some older photos. I would say that it's extremely accurate, the cleaned up photo of how he looked too. That's what I was
Yeah,
going to touch on too. You look at it like you said over there, and it's, hey, you guys,
yeah,
versus and his description was for the time he was a handsome young man. He was a ladies' man. That was a an ongoing description of
and
Billy the Kid back then. So then you
right,
see that photo and it's like, what? Like, what was they looking
and
at?
and I said I wasn't going to bring this up, but I guess I lied. This is unofficial what I'm about to say because I
Okay.
can't remember if it was this or if it was something else. I thought I read somewhere when they talked about Billy the Kid being like a ladies' man and all with his looks and everything, that I thought they said he had a thing going on with John Chisholm's daughter.
Uh huh.
That there was a picture I'd seen where Charlie Bowdery was off on the right of the picture. The daughter, did I say her name was Lizzie or Lily or Lily,
Lizzie,
I
I
believe?
believe. Yeah,
One of the
Lily. It was one of
something
those.
along those lines. She was standing up on a porch, and there was somebody who was believed to be Billy the Kid in the
Hmm.
picture, but they
Hmm.
couldn't swear because the picture was a kind of a distant picture. It wasn't close up or anything, so he had the appearances of Billy the Kid, but they could not swear to it because the face was kind of turned away a little bit.
Right. And for
Um,
those of you listening on the podcast that can't see these photos, I'm just going to encourage you to go over to YouTube and check them out. The one that we're oogling over at the moment, the Billy the Kid one, is the one where he's standing there with his I imagine it's a rifle.
yeah,
One of they claim it's one of the very few photos ever taken taken of Billy the Kid because he wouldn't pose for him. But one of the things that I love about it, you can't see it going back to that how wonky it looks in the original photo because this is a tin photo. This is a flash burnt onto metal is the way that
mhm.
the original photo is made, and then when it digitized and pulled up, especially after watching uh, the Young Guns so many times, and the little nuances of the personality that Emilio brings into Billy the Kid, and the way that Billy was described, it's almost like you can see that kind of smirk on his face. That you know what I mean? That
Yeah.
he's got this look on his face in the enhanced photo that's like, yeah, I'm it. I'm it.
I'm
Yeah,
Billy the Kid.
I'm Billy the Kid. And you can't see that in the old one. So it's kind of gives
No.
you like a glimpse into his personality, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And then to kind of move on from there, when it comes to back to the movie, at least anyway, that is.
Yes, yes.
So back to the movie, we get to where you get a showdown scene between Murphy and his men, and he brings Sheriff Brady with him, which he has pretty much bought and pocketed as his own personal sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
And they come out to the Tunstall Ranch, and they're accusing them of taking, I think, some of their cattle or horses, or one of the two
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
And which, of course, Tunstall retorts back to him. He's always going to blame me for something. My guys have not done anything. These are fine young men that I'm taught, that taken in to teach, and things go from there. Well, as they leave later on the night, we get to the dinner that they're having. First dinner, I guess Billy's with them there. And the guys who I made sure I said hacking on him because it's one of the funniest scenes in the movie to me.
Yeah.
Charlie and Dirty Steve were cracking jokes on him. And what was the line, Travis, about
Tunstall said,
at the dinner table? He said something at the dinner table about being good with pigs anyway, or something like that.
yeah, Tunstall called him down, and Tunstall asked Billy if he'd ever worked any cattle before, and Billy
Yeah.
said, yeah. He said, yeah, I worked out on so and so's place. He said, I'm pretty handy with the cattle, and I believe it was. I believe it was Charlie. No,
Or it was Charlie.
what's it?
Charlie whispered to
Charlie.
Steve. Charlie
Yeah, he
whispered to
said good
Steve.
with pig,
Yeah, which
and
got
then
him
they started
laughing.
laughing. And then Tunstall told him, he's like, "Hey, not at the dinner table." He said, "Apologize." So he apologized. He said, "We're sorry, Billy." Or he said, "Apologize." He said, "I'm sorry, John. I just found it funny." He said, "And to Billy." He said, "I'm sorry, Billy. We just hacking on you." And Dirty Steve's like, "Yeah, we just hacking on you, Billy." And then they kind of
Wasn't
cut
it
off
Doc?
right there.
Well,
Dick said, "I
I think
heard
it
you
was
killed him."
Doc. Was it Dick or Doc?
I believe it was Dick. Goes, "I heard you killed a man, Billy." What? He's like, "Yeah." He said, "What'd you do that for?" He looked straight at Charlie and Dirty Steve. He goes, "He was hacking on me."
Yeah,
And then he showed that kind of gulped real big, and Tunstall
yeah. It
kind
was
of
like,
grinned.
oh.
Chavez grinned, and yeah, that was awesome.
It was a funny moment in the movie, to say the least, no doubt. Basically, the next few minutes of the film is just showing the guys coming together better as friends, and Tunstall
Yeah.
taking Billy to town, getting him dressed up in something nice,
Mm-hmm.
where he's not just running around in the same old dirty clothes all the time, showing him that it's okay to dress up and be a man, not just with the guns and everything. And uh, New Year's is coming up. They go to a New Year's Eve deal, New Year's Eve party, where you see Doc getting to meet this woman in there, and I don't know if this had any reality to it. In the you might have may or may not have seen this, Travis, in the reality of the wars and everything, but he meets this girl in there that he calls a China doll.
Right.
What was her actual name in the movie?
Yen.
Yin.
Yeah.
But it turns out Murphy actually owns her. He is taking possession of her from her family because the family who owns a laundry messed up some of his clothes. So he took ownership of the daughter as payment for his clothes, and he uses her as house entertainment for, I guess, himself and his friends at his establishment he runs. But Doc learns this later. But anyway, he meets her for the first time there. They get to dance a little bit. He comes and takes her away from him when he realizes he's one of Tunstall's guys and everything. They go and they leave and are headed way back. And the regulators take off running up to the front, riding off on the horses up front, shooting guns in the air. Billy hangs back, looks at Tunstall. He says, "Boys will be boys, Billy. Go have fun." So he takes off down there, shooting his gun and yelling. And just as he gets down the hill a little ways, he looks around and he sees that Murphy and his men have come up on the wagon. And Tunstall knows this is it for him. He goes to stand up like he's gonna die on his own 2 feet, I guess, versus sitting in the wagon. But he gets up, and just as he gets up, he gets bombarded with bullets, and they kill him. And the regulators all see this, and they take off because they're outnumbered. And when this happens, they're going to get their revenge. So they go off and end up getting deputized, actually, because they go to a lawyer first. This is where McSwain comes in.
Mm-hmm.
He's a lawyer who's a friend with John Tunstall, and he wanted to get justice as well, but he wanted justice the right way, which was bringing him into the law and have the law handle him. So he gets somebody to deputize the regulators to go serve warrants to bring in all of these guys that they remember seeing that was there as a part of Murphy's men that did the killing. And it just kind of escalates from there. Now, in the real life deal, Travis, do you recall the deputizing of the men? How that went? Was it as compared to the movie itself? Do you recall how that bit went?
It was a lot less dramatic, really. But I just found too some really cool things about Doc Scurlock. Doc did. He didn't. I don't think the stuff with Yen went the way that it went in the movie, but he did like move back east and start things. But prior to becoming a regulator, how about this? Another name that we know. Let me find it again. So the name Doc, the nickname arose because he was studied medicine in Louisiana and he drifted into Mexico, possibly to help fight a yellow fever outbreak there. And a man across the table drew a pistol and shot first. The bullet hit Doc's front teeth, went through to come out the back of his neck. So apart from losing 2 teeth without the benefit of a dentist and gaining a neck wound that would have to heal, he suffered no lasting harm. So he didn't even fall down when he was shot. He pulled his own pistol and shot the other fella dead. So Doc was a little bit of a BA, but this is the part that I found that was really cool. He went into business with a man named Charlie Bowdry running a cheese making factory on the Gila
Yeah.
River. And
Yeah,
this
and
thought,
Billy worked with him at one point.
yeah, and it's thought that one of their employees briefly was young Henry McCarty, later known as Billy the Kid. And when
Right.
that didn't pan out as a long-term career, they went to work in Lincoln County for John Tunstall. So
Yeah.
that would have been the true story of Doc. So
Yeah, and it's
that's
also
pretty neat.
you'll find in the true story a lot of them worked together with each other before they were regulators. The
Yeah.
other way. They worked on different ranches as well together as ranch hands,
Right.
working with cattle and everything else. So it wasn't the first time that they had been together working with each other in any way, and they knew each other. Quite a few of them did, maybe not real well, but at least knew each other before all this went down and happened. So it would be kind of like saying if you were watching. Let's go with a TV series, Little House on the Prairie. It's back in the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Set back in an older time frame. The whole town may know each other, but not know each other well. But then later on, something comes up where it brings them closer together with someone new in the town or old in the town that they weren't real good friends with, and now they know each other well. Same difference in this. They knew each other because they were in the same area, same place, same business mostly, but they weren't real good close friends. When they became regulators, however, this is where you start seeing the talk about being pals or being, like brothers in a sense, or being pals.
Yeah. They easy being pals. But going back to what you really said too, with them being deputized and everything, the deputization came from the fact that they weren't going to stop. They were going to go serve justice no matter what anyway. So, Constable Martinez and the Lincoln County Justice of the Peace, I don't have his name here in front of me, they went ahead and said, okay, well, then we're going to deputize these boys, and they're going to serve legally issued warrants, to which Sheriff Brady in real life actually arrested and jailed Martinez and the regulators, which they got released, of course, and then went on they attempted to serve the paperwork in a legal manner, but how the old West was, the wild, wild West. They wasn't having none of that.
And back forward, just to give you guys a time frame of this is 1878. I believe it is. February 18th, 1878, it says members of Sheriff Brady's posse caught up with Tunstall while he and the ranch hands were herding his last 9 horses back to Lincoln.
Yeah.
So in the movie, they were leaving a New Year's Eve party. In real life, they were just doing ranch work, regular everyday stuff.
Yeah.
Brady's posse pulled their weapons on Tunstall and murdered him while his farmhands witnessed it. The farmhands were Dick Brewer, John Middleton, Henry Newton Brown, Robert A. Whitman, Fred Waite, and the notorious Billy the Kid. So Jesse Evans, one of Murphy's men, was a culprit in the shooting. It says the murder catalyzed the Lincoln County War, that it would even become a national issue.
Right.
So something as simple as just this. All it was 2 ranches competing, real life, for the business and everything. And you don't want someone stepping on your toes in a business you're wanting to monopolize and control.
Right.
So they take the guy out, and these people see it. And I guess they just didn't realize, how close I guess people have become and how serious it was to the ones that witnessed the killing.
Right. That's the thing too, with him being so well liked, with Tunstall being so well liked. It wasn't just the history says that, well, many reports from history said it was his cowhands and other local citizens formed the group known as the Regulators. So it wasn't just the people that was working for him; it was some of the folks that liked him, or at the very least rather have, at the very least they like dealing with him better than they did Murphy.
Could be. It could be. It could be he was so well liked and easy to get along with that the people in town even wanted justice for it, even if it meant they were going to go string somebody up without the law, taking place in it. You had a lynch mob for somebody or something. Those are pretty popular things back in the day. Getting a lynch mob together to go catch somebody who's wanted and just string them up from a tree and dish out their own form of justice and everything.
No doubt.
What else did it say here? Tunstall being a well-liked man, his cowhands and other local citizens formed a group called the Regulators to bring justice to murder. However, since New Mexico was still a territory, the entire criminal justice system was controlled by allies of Murphy and Dolan, who were the men responsible for Tunstall's death. Now, Dolan was a partner to Murphy.
Yeah.
Murphy actually did not have a lot to do with the real life deal of this. In the movie, he was there till practically the end of the first movie.
Right. Yeah.
And Billy the
Reap
Kid
the
goes in.
whirlwind, Murphy.
Right, but in real life, Murphy was a sick man, and he didn't make it to what happened. What you see that happened in the movies, and Dolan was the one who was in control of almost everything at that point in time. This says this did not deter the regulators, who were made up of many men at different times, but held the same core. That core was Billy the Kid, Dick Brewer, Frank McNabb, Doc Skurlock, Jim French, which is kind of funny because you got William Henry French in the second movie. So I guess it's a play off of that name. John Middleton, George Coe, Frank Coe, Jose Chavez, Charlie Bowdry, Tom O'Folliard, Fred Waite, and Henry Newton Brown. Those are your regular full-time regulators.
Right.
For that. So I guess it's kind of hard to take a movie and say you're going to have 11 or 12 men at one point and call them your regulators and focus on it versus the 6. It's a lot easier.
Yeah. You get the Brat Pack, get some Brat Pack members together, and get you some some catchy one-liners and some flashy gunplay, and you got yourself an entertaining movie there.
Yeah. Now you also had something in real life happen as well. In the movie, we have a guy named McCloskey that comes over. That wants to work on the Tunstall Ranch. He used to work for Murphy, but him and Murphy got into it. He said he called him a name.
He fat Sal. He said he called him a fat Sal.
A fat Sal.
Yeah.
Pretty much as goofy sounding as that was.
Fat Sal.
And so he brings him on in and takes him in, puts trust in him to come work with him on his group in the movie. And they end up having a thing where, Billy the Kid thinks he has been lying the whole time, and he actually kills him. He doesn't trust him, and he puts a bullet in his head, more or less. Now, the whole thing with McCloskey actually happened in real life too. It says on March 9th, 1978, the third day of the journey back to Lincoln, the regulators killed McCloskey. Actually, more than McCloskey, Morton, and Baker in the Capitan foothills along Blackwater Creek. It was called the Blackwater Creek Massacre, or the Blackwater Massacre. I'm sorry,
Blackwater Massacre.
Call it correctly there. When they actually killed them and the two prisoners, I believe the two prisoners being Morton and Baker, and then of course they were going to take them in. These were two of the people that Billy the Kid didn't just kill off the bat. Best I remember reading. Some of the others talked him into just taking them in like they were supposed to.
Right.
Some of them wasn't for that, though. Some of them sided with Billy the Kid and wanted to just kill all of them. But they were going to take these in, and as it ended up, they killed them anyway.
Dirty Steve was ready to kill him. He said, "What you say we just take him on up here and shoot him and put a bullet in their head?" Dirty Steve like,
yeah. He was definitely ready to go with that. In the movie, it's kind of a dramatic scene there because Dick is wanting him to lay off because he's like, he's one of us. He became one of us. What are you doing? And you think Billy the Kid's going to go ahead and call it quits. He apologizes to him, tells him he's sorry. Then he tells him he's sorry for not killing him a long time ago and puts a bullet in his head.
Right.
And that's all that. But Doc Skurlock takes his side and tells him he was acting kind of weird and strange. Yeah. He believed it was wrong too. So now they got another person they've killed that's going to be causing Murphy and his men to be coming at them hard now. That's what they did.
It keeps looking bad on their case too with them killing folks.
Right. They're just killing people and they're not taking them in like they're supposed to. It's all legal with the warrants to bring them in for the crimes. Yeah. And they could have got them and taken them in and had them locked up. The question is, with Brady being the sheriff, would they have been prosecuted in any way? And I think in the back of their minds, they're wondering, probably real life, as far as this goes, how can we trust Murphy to give justice when Murphy is in the pocket? I'm sorry, Brady give justice when he's in the pocket of Murphy.
Right.
You can't. You're not going to get
it. And then that notwithstanding, in real life, in 1878 in September, Rutherford B. Hayes removed the current corrupt governor from New Mexico and put in Lew Wallace, which probably wasn't any better. And the president was talking about, Wallace thought he was calling for martial law in New Mexico, and the president advised the lawbreakers return to peace. Well, they came to came together and decided that on November 13th in 1878, Wallace proclaimed an amnesty for all those involved in the Lincoln County War if they were not already under indictment. That didn't include Billy the Kid, but so anyone else involved had amnesty at that point. From that point forward, if they provided they were not already under indictment, which I would imagine that means charges brought against them, or I would imagine that means Murphy's men.
Yeah. So here we are back at the movie again. They're deputized, right?
Yeah.
And they have to go out and present, warrants to the people. The very first one in the movie they're supposed to give to is at a house of the ladies, you might say. And so Dick gets Billy to go in to hand him the warrant, apparently. So instead of giving him the warrant, he actually hears the guy's about to come outside and go, I guess, to the I don't want to say it's the outhouse because it wasn't an outhouse technically, but he follows in there and looks like when he goes in that Billy's in there using the restroom, and Billy turns around and says something like "yoo-hoo" or something like that, and you see him with a gun in his belly pointed at him, and he shoots him.
He took him out right there.
Starts a gunfight right then and there, which infuriates Dick because they're supposed to just be taking them in with the warrants, not killing people. Now they got more trouble coming their way because Billy brings more trouble by killing. According to the movie. Now, according to real life, they say half the murders that they say Billy the Kid was accredited for was done by regulators and other people.
Yep.
They weren't even actually his kills, a lot of them.
I was like in the second movie where he said, "What is that now? 20?" It's 5, Billy. Let's call it even 10.
Well, no, that's in the first movie, actually.
Is that in the first one?
Yeah, that's where they go into that bar.
That's the end of the first one.
Not quite at the end, I don't think. It's before they go back to it's definitely before. Well, I don't know. Hold on. Was it? No, it wasn't the second one, I don't believe. Yeah. Man, you know what? At this point, I can't remember. They go to this bar,
together, don't they?
Because they do. It feels like it does in a sense these days. They go to a bar. There's a guy there telling a woman, "This is the pistol that's going to kill Billy the Kid." He's a
right.
And so Billy the Kid walks up and says, "Well, what's this guy look like in case I see him? I'll let you know." He says, "Well, he's a handsome young man. They say he's a ladies' man, right-handed or something like that."
Left-handed. Always whistling sad tunes.
Yeah, whistling sad tunes. That's another thing with the left-handed bit. They said it wrong. He wasn't left-handed. It was right-handed according to history. Right. That's one of the things that they got wrong.
Well, in the movie too, though, he says, "I'm not left-handed."
Yeah, he does actually.
I says it. He said, "I'm not left-handed."
Yeah, it's funny. But whichever movie it was, and when he does this, regardless.
Great. He said, "Can I touch it? Can I touch it?" He's like, so he hands it to him, and he's like looking at it. Well, this ain't a revolver, but anyway, he opens it up and he like takes all the bullets out of it, closes it back up. And he's like, "All right, now, son, hand that back over here." He's like, stroke a weapon like that. It's like stroking a man's woman. So he handed the gun back and leaned up against the bar and started whistling. Like, dude started pulling the trigger. Then he's like, "Oh, I'm getting real tired of your lip." And he just started whistling more. Dude pulled the gun out, went to shoot. Ain't no bullets in it. He daggum Carl Childers and "Weren't no bullets in it." So then when he capped him, he turned around and said, "How many is that? 20?" And then Doc said, "5, Billy." And he goes, "Let's make it 10. And Billy and then Doc kind of nervously, he goes, "Whatever you say, Billy."
Sure thing. Why not?
Yeah.
The thing I liked about the movies too, you had some people show up that they were big stars in their time and big stars in other places too. And one of the first people that came for the regulators when it starts getting real for them is Buckshot Roberts, and he's played in a movie by. Let's see, the guy's name right here. Was it Brian Keith? Brian Keith. Okay, so Brian Keith from Hardcastle McCormick fame and some other older westerns and everything too. In reality, when it was the Buckshot Roberts, it was the Battle of Blazers Mill, they called it.
Mm-hmm.
And Blazers Mill was an important destination during the time because it was a trading post during the time they came upon the rancher Buckshot Roberts. Now, he was listed on the warrant of a list of the men that was wanted. So they had to get that for him as well. But as it turns out, it didn't go down like it did in the movie. Go figure. The movie's still for entertainment purposes. In the movie, you got Buckshot Roberts gets into an outhouse to get away from him. He's shooting through the boards at the guys. He actually clips Doc with one shot and Chavez with another, I think.
Yeah.
Not really wounding him bad, but just clips him with a bullet.
Mm-hmm.
And they think they've got him, and Dick goes out to go check and make sure he's dead, and gets halfway up there, and he shoots Dick right there in the open and kills him.
Yeah.
Then they just unload on the outhouse and kill him, Buckshot Roberts.
Which that part actually happened. He really did kill Dick. So Richard Brewer died with him, and then he also really wounded Middleton, Doc, Richard or Gary Coe. Which Coe was it? He worried one of the Coe brothers.
Yeah. Or cousins.
Cousins. I'm sorry, one of Coe cousins, and he got McCarty too. So he was a handful for sure.
Now, after the death of this is what we were talking about earlier. I was telling you there was actually 3 leaders of the regulators. There was Dick Brewer,
right?
After
they
Dick
elected Frank McNabb.
Went to Frank McNabb as their leader next.
Mm-hmm.
April 29th, 1978, Sheriff Pepin led his posse that included Jesse Evans' gang and the 7 River Warriors towards the regulators. Mm-hmm. When they arrived at a shootout between the 2 factions occurred. Now, in the movie, when they are in the house at the end, at the McSwain house, they're tipped off by Pat Garrett that they're going to go kill the McSwains.
Right.
And they think that was a lure to get them out in the open after all the stuff that they've done. And we'll just skip ahead to this part right here for the sake of time and everything. Mm-hmm. This is the end of the movie, the first one. They've gone to get the 2 McSwains out, and Alex won't leave. That's the lawyer. He says he won't leave his house. He's not going to go somewhere and run. He's going to fight it the right way. And as it turns out, it was a trick to get them all there in the same place to take them all out at once. When in the real life, the people I just mentioned earlier, the 7 Rivers Warriors and the Jesse Evans gang and the Murphy men that's left over, it's them 3 groups that are outside the house there to take them out.
And the boys were cattle thieves. The Jesse Evans gang, they were also known as the Boys. They were cattle thieves themselves, known for cattle rustling. That's what they was famous for.
Yeah.
So this is still all within cattle.
And in the movie, this is their dramatic end of the movie where you see them. They lit the house on fire. Finally, they exchange a lot of gunshots. Nothing happens. They light the house. Mm-hmm. Chavez slips out the back. He's gone. Steve's looking for Chavez. He thinks he done left him and everything and give up on him. He starts cursing that. They make a plan to get out without, I guess, before you know it, because they're tossing out, since the house is on fire, all the belongings of the McSwains so that the wife has her stuff, and they get it to where she can get out, and they let her out.
Right.
As they're letting her out, she runs across the road. They're dumping stuff out the top of the attic to the windows. And one of the things they dump out is a chest that comes rolling out. And as the chest comes rolling out, it lands perfectly on its bottom side. And then you see Doc come running out with Dirty Steve from the top of the steps, shooting, guns blazing as they come out for cover fire so they can start running. Then out of nowhere, Billy pops up out of the chest. He was in the chest they had thrown out as a surprise to start, shooting people. So he's taking.
And at the time, especially even if you were to watch that now, that's an awesome part of the movie. But at the time when that first came out, dude, if you were in the theaters, it erupted. Just
because they portray
that was an epic scene.
They're portraying them as good guys, technically. And whether they were good guys, bad guys, they were all bad, whatever the case may be.
Right.
This is how it was portrayed. You wanted something good to happen with it, so he comes out guns blazing. Left, right. He's taking people out. Then he takes a shot to the arm up there, and starts going down from that. Then you see Charlie, and Charlie's going at it with the guy he feared the most. You kind of really like Charlie a lot at the end of it, because you see he stands up for his friends. He's not going to let his friends down, let them go alone. He's not going to leave them behind.
Right.
The guy that come in, I wish I could think of his name. He just kept saying his name over and over again. Talking about
oh my God, he was the one that was. He was the headhunter.
Basically, yes.
Yeah, I cannot remember his name to save my life either, man. If you had asked me, I could have told you.
I know, but at the end of it, he's exchanging shots with him when they're out in the open, and Charlie takes 2 or 3 shots, and you think he's done with, and out of nowhere, this is another one of them moments. He comes up with his gun, and it's just straight up pointed, and he hits the one guy, and he's dead too. So Charlie may have been killed, but he took out the one guy he feared the most. And he stood up to it and everything.
Yeah, that scene too was where we had John Kenny. Was it John Kenny?
John Kenny was the man's name.
John Kenny.
Go. Yes,
that was the scene too where we had Tom. Come on, everybody knows this Tom. Y'all know how I am with names. Y'all been listening this long. Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise made a
yes.
cameo right there.
Actually,
as a matter of fact, I believe he was Kenny. I'm not sure, but
no, he wasn't. He wasn't John Kenny. No.
Okay, I didn't think so. But I thought it might have been because when Charlie's coming down the stairs, the first person that shows him shooting that was Tom in his little getup doing his cameo.
Tom Cruise was in one of the shootouts in which his character was killed. The actor was on set accidentally and asked to be in the film because he had never taken part in a Western movie, and he was really excited to try. There's another little snippet down here. That's why he was in the movie. He had just basically showed up on scene one day, and he asked could he be a part of stuff. They gave him a job.
Isn't that cool?
There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that do that though. They get job as extras and they're uncredited, so you never know it.
Yeah.
Or anything, But I'm scrolling down here right now to get you the other fact of who he was. And I'll tell you that in just a second.
Well, while you're looking for that, I'm going to throw it out there too that the budget on this movie was $13 million, and opening weekend is what we would consider not very good at $7 million. But it ended up grossing worldwide $45,661,556 estimated, of course, which is not too bad, I would say. I mean, that's more than double your money.
So here we go. Tom Cruise, the fourth person shot when Charlie burst out of the house shooting. Cruise was on set one day, and the director thought it'd be great to get him in the movie. He dressed Cruise as a soldier and filmed the climactic battle. He's one of the soldiers that got killed.
Yeah.
So if you go back and watch the movie, and as soon as Charlie comes out of the house, look for the fourth person to get shot. Look for that. And that's Tom Cruise. Randy Travis was in there as the guy operating the Gatling gun.
Yeah.
That killed Alex McSwain and took him out. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of fun little facts about these, some funny things about the movie. Fun facts about the movie. I'm not going to read them all to you because I want to touch on the second movie a little bit as well here. But we won't do the second movie very long though,
because the second movie
didn't have a lot to do with it.
And I don't feel like it was significant either.
No, it's really just because we wanted a sequel. It had nothing to do with Lincoln County Wars.
Right.
It's more or less about Pat Garrett trailing Billy the Kid.
Cashing in.
So
they're trying to cash in on the success of the first.
It says here. At night, when the actors would actually get together to play, music and sing. The actors would to pass time away. When they were drunk, they'd make Lou Diamond Phillips sing La Bamba because he played Richie Valens.
I thought that was hilarious.
Another funny thing about the group is that, we'll tell this right here. It says like virtually all movies, but this is not the funny thing I'm getting to, by the way. But like virtually all movies about events surrounding Lincoln County War, John Tunstall is depicted as an older, sophisticated man. Tunstall was 24. When he was murdered, younger than most of the regulators. Josiah Doc Scurlock was 31 at the time of Tunstall's murder, and Richard Dick Brewer was 27. Only 20-year-old Billy the Kid was younger.
Isn't that something?
Than that. And that's the actual age of these people when all this happened. What were you doing when you were 20 years old, when you were 24 years old? I mean, you were out playing, having fun with your friends and everything.
Sure wasn't running no cattle ranch.
It just goes to show you how times have changed and everything. But the other funny thing on set, Emilio Estevez was very depressed throughout the shoot because he'd recently broken up with his girlfriend. So one night, Lou Diamond Phillips decided to play a prank on him, and in an effort to cheer him up, Phillips had the wardrobe department put makeup on a sheep in the dress and put it in Emilio Estevez's room.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
So, I mean, I wonder what the look on his face was like when you seen that actually.
Right.
There's some crazy stuff.
And you got those guys, man. You got old school members of the Brat Pack and people that come up together right there too. Every cast member of the Young Gun, they've been doing movies together since they were kids too. Like
and you had a couple
guys all know each other.
You had a couple of second generation people in this too. You had I think John Wayne's son played a small part in the movie.
Yes, Pat Garrett. Patrick Wayne came through and played Pat Garrett.
When he sees Billy the Kid for the first time, introduced himself. That's John Wayne's son. Then you got Jack Palance's son, Cody Palance, is in there as well.
Yeah.
In the scene where they were doing peyote, it was actually cream of mushroom soup.
Mm-hmm.
So people actually asked, were they actually doing that? I don't know why you would ask a question like that. I don't think they're going to be doing real drugs or anything in the movie.
Right. And if they were, they're not going to tell you.
Right, exactly. This is the cast used to make fun of Charlie Sheen all the time because of how he said Billy.
Yeah.
Look, Billy.
Look, Billy. Billy.
Billy.
Billy.
I want to say at some point here,
Billy.
I've seen.
I can hear that's so funny too. He'd be like,
I know.
He'd be like, God, Billy.
Now you can't stop saying it now. You keep hearing it in your head.
I do.
In 2016, this is the last thing I'm going to say about this movie. In 2016, a meet and greet interview with Lou Diamond Phillips, he revealed that Sean Penn was originally offered the role of Billy the Kid, and Patrick Swayze was offered the role of Dick Brewer. Due to legal troubles at the time, Penn was not able to accept the role, and Swayze was not interested to do another ensemble movie, as he'd done movies with the Brat Pack before in the past. He was trying to move forward to different things.
Yeah, that's just as good, just as well. I don't want to see Sean Penn as Billy.
Yeah, and as far as the real life goes, so we can go ahead and cap up the first movie versus the real life deal. A lot of the people that died at the end, Dirty Steve, for example, Dirty Steve did not get killed at all during the Lincoln County Wars. He moved on to, I think it was Colorado somewhere, I believe.
Yeah.
Where no one knows what happened to him. They don't even know where the man's buried at. So he could have taken a different name to get away from people and die with that alias name or anything.
Skurlock. Doc Skurlock ended up not dying, which he didn't die in the first movie anyway, but he didn't die either. And it shows him dying, but he didn't die, period, because he died of old age. He died of a heart attack when he was much older. But Kiefer Sutherland wanted out of the role. He was done with it. He wanted out of it. He demanded to be written out, kill my character. And for whatever reason, I don't know, but I do know that
seems stupid. There wasn't going to be a third one anyway, so why bother with it at that point?
Yeah.
That was stupid.
And see, they had a more fleshed out ending for him, but I guess he was just done with it. So,
yeah, and that actually leads up to one of the good quotes that to jump ahead toward the end of the. Well, actually, before I get there, just a quick thing. Young Guns 2. Basically, Young Guns 2, you pick up a couple new people. You got William Henry French called himself. You got Balthazar Getty playing.
Tom O'Folliard.
That wasn't his name. Was that his name in the movie in part 2?
He was Tom. Tom Folliard. Tom O'Folliard.
I didn't realize that. Okay. Well, that's another play in the regular names.
Balthazar Getty. And then you have Viggo Mortensen as John Poe, which I thought because I love Viggo.
Well, he was one of the guys who was helping to track Billy the Kid down.
Right. He was like the right-hand man of Governor Wallace or whatever. Or whoever offered the $500. Yeah, that was Wallace. He offered the $500 bounty.
Wallace and Chisholm both.
Yeah.
It was Chisholm who offered the money.
That's
because
what
we did to him. Because we did to him.
Yeah, and that was James Coburn. That was the great James Coburn.
Exactly. So just to wrap the movie up, you got the two additional ones there. Chavez and Doc get brought back in the deal where they bring back the Lincoln County where people are going to try them now. They bring them back from across the states. Mm-hmm. They rescue them. He'd been riding with Pat Garrett and Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh for a while, Billy had.
Right.
And
we have found out that him riding with Pat is completely untrue. They knew each other, but they weren't friends. Right. They didn't ride together or anything like that.
Right. They were just friendly a little bit, just acquaintances at best, probably, truth be known.
Yes.
Arkansas Dave was actually called Dirty Dave Rudabaugh, but we're assuming that since they had Dirty Steve in the first one, they didn't want to reuse the name in the second one, so they gave him Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh.
Makes sense.
Just go ahead and flash forward to the end of the movie. Well, a little bit, actually, a small jump to it where they go to James Coburn's character, Chisholm, John Chisholm's ranch, and they're trying to get some money from him to get to where they're going to go. And Chisholm don't want to give him any money, even though he sided with Tunstall during that whole thing that happened. He didn't want to give anything up to him. And he'd been taking people's farms from him and everything, too, for a while. So Billy tells him he's going to take off $5 for every man of his he kills, which ends up he kills two of them. Not himself. He gets Dave to kill one. Doc ends up killing the other one because Henry William French can't get his gun out of the hole.
This is such a great. Hold on, we've done. I know we're getting close to the end, and we want to. And this movie's not nearly as good, but that part was amazing where he goes. Billy takes his stuff. Billy takes his belt off and lays it on the ground. He said, "All right, now if you can get to your gun before I can get to mine." He goes, "You ready?" And they're like, the Mexican guy, he's got his hat pulled down. He goes, "Yeah, I ready." And Billy don't move. He just goes, "Dave."
Yeah.
Boom! He hits him
Yeah.
with the rifle.
Yeah.
Chisholm like, "Billy, you son of a bitch."
All done with. All done with.
Yeah,
So
great.
at this point, when they kill the second one, when Doc kills the second one, he tells them, "You just signed your death warrants right there." So they take off and leave. And so they bring in Pat Garrett, who'd been riding with him, who stopped riding with him to open a restaurant. He said,
"Yeah."
So they offer him $500 up front and $500 in the end when he catches him. It's $1,000 at that time. $1,000 in the old West, man. That's like
I actually looked up the exchange and inflation rate as I was rewatching that movie last weekend, and they offered him $20,140 in today's money.
Wow, if you think about that, that's really not that much.
It's not that much, dude. Because I was like, "Oh, he's gonna make him a rich man." I was like, "Wow, the exchange rate is 20 grand, 20,000, you know." And I'm like, "Dude."
You would think back then that as with how it goes now, that would be worth a lot more than just 20,000.
Yeah, you would think that, but at the same time, so there's a couple things that I can throw out there too. At the same time, people kill people on the streets these days for $5 grand. So,
that's true too.
But they kill them over a pair of shoes these days.
But at the same time, not only would he get that money, he'd be the one. He'd have the notoriety. He's the guy that got Billy the Kid.
Right, and not only that, I actually, my grandfather's house, I love looking at this thing. There is a 1901 Sears and Roebuck catalog, which wouldn't be too far off of this timeline. Yeah. And you can buy in that book. You could buy the plans and the lumber to build a 2-story home that would cost you probably $500,000 these days for $361.
That's crazy.
You could buy horses through Sears and Roebuck, and a horse that costs you like $10, $20, $30, where a horse nowadays, like Champion Bloodline, they're paying 20, 30, 40, 50,000, sometimes $500,000 for a horse,
Yeah. That's crazy stuff.
So, I mean, when we really do think about it, the dollar, even though the exchange rate doesn't seem like it's that much, it probably, in reality, for what you would get for your dollar back then, it probably really was a lot more than.
Yeah. Well, all right. That's cool then. So back to the end of the movie then. I mean, like you mentioned earlier about people not dying. They're huddled up in this small, will be the equivalent of a shack. It's a little adobe shack of some kind, that they're in talking. And it gives you one of the better quotes from one of both of the movies. Mm-hmm. And Doc getting mad and pulling the rifle and pointing it right in Billy's face, right between his eyes. And he says, "Billy, you are not a god." Yeah. And he says, "Why don't you pull the trigger and find out?"
Yeah.
And you're like, "Oh, it's like when you see the movie at first, you get a chill go up your back with that one. Like, oh,
no doubt.
Boy, he just dared him right there. Put a bullet right there. Let's see if I still keep going.
The other funny thing about that moment too, though, is because the entire movie and a little bit of the first one, Billy's always talking about how much Doc loves him, and every time he shows Doc, he's like, "I hate that guy."
Yeah,
like, I can't stand.
I really hate this kid. I can't stand him. I just want to get away from him.
They even start that. Yeah. They started that in the first one too. I think he was with Yun, and he was telling Yin, "I hate him." He's like,
But it goes from scene to scene. You got Doc hadn't come back yet, and they're like, "Wonder what's taking Doc so long?" And they're like, "I bet he didn't skinned out and took off." And
he was
like, "No, man." He goes, "Doc loves me. Yeah, he loves me." Then he goes to him telling Yin, "I can't stand the guy. All right, he's just doing all this stuff. He's going to get us killed." I mean,
and then the second one, he's telling everybody, "I hate that." Him and who they were sitting in a hot spring. It was him and somebody who had just got shot.
No, the hot spring thing was. I thought the hot spring was the first one where they've been riding.
It may have been the first one because it was him and I keep seeing Dirty Steve. It was Dirty Steve.
Yeah, that's the first one.
Dirty Steve. He's like, He told him then. He said, "Man, I hate him." He said, "I really hate him."
So, like we said, he storms out of the building when he can't pull the trigger on him. He walks out of the building. As soon as he hits the door, a gunshot goes off and Doc is shot, and he falls back into the building. And now and it was Pat that did it, I think, if I'm not mistaken, because he gave away their.
No, it was Viggo Mortensen. No, I remember that.
Viggo Mortensen. Because Pat tells him, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" That's right. Because he didn't want to kill any of them. He wanted to bring them in.
Right. Yeah. He was going to try. He was still thinking they might get a fair trial, and So he was wanting to bring him on.
Yeah, bring him in. So he then at this point, Billy had told Doc this story about this old parable or something about a Chinese man and something about how he's going to finish the game. And he says, Doc, I will finish the game.
That's what Tunstall told him.
Right, the story that Tunstall had told him in the past. Yeah. So Doc looks at Billy as they're fretting about he just getting shot and what happened. He said, Billy, he goes, let's finish the game.
Yeah.
So Billy's like, this is our moment.
I just got cold chills, man. I remember that scene. Yeah.
It's bad enough that the first thing brought a chill down your spine when Billy says, won't you pull the trigger and find out? When Doc cuts him off and says, let's finish the game. And you see Billy just look at him with that stare and hands him the pistol. We're going to do this, Doc. This is our last stand. And they start going out. Doc runs out, guns. He knows he's dead anyway. He goes out, guns blazing for the rest of the guys, trying to draw off the fire and everything. And you see Henry William French and Chavez take off out the back and Dave out the back. Billy falls down and can't get out and gets pinned in still.
Yeah.
And Doc is dead now. The rest of them are taken off. You see the rest of them escape, but Billy gets caught up. And they take him in for trial. And the second best quote from the movie is right there when he takes him into town before he gets away and gets back to the place where, Chavez is and everything. When he finds out Chavez is pretty much dead at this point, too. He took a shot back there that killed him, that didn't kill him at that time, but it caught up with him. But the next best quote of the movie, before he gets away, he takes the shotgun that the guy that was watching him with, that tells him he's got 18 dimes. All right, he's got 18 dimes. He got 90 cents in each barrel or something like that. He goes, it's $1. You ever seen what $1.80 can do to somebody, kid?
Yeah.
And as it's over with, he takes that gun away from the other guy he killed.
Best $1.35 I ever spent.
No, $1.80. $1.80. He's got 18 dimes. He said 9 in each barrel.
Yeah.
And he busts open the window and he yells at him. He goes, hey, whatever his name was. He looks at the guy like, oh, crap. Yeah. And he goes, best $1.80 I ever spent.
Yeah. That comes off the heels too of in the first movie. He's like, I forget the guy's name, but he's like, is that so and so down there with you? He's like, yeah, he's down here.
It's Pippin. He goes, hey, Pippin. Yeah. I see you got Charlie so and so with you. He goes, yeah, I got him, kid. Hey, Pippin. Yeah, he ain't with you no more. So basically, to the end here, in the movie, Pat Garrett has caught up with Billy the Kid. Billy turns his back to him, says there's nothing he wouldn't do for a friend. Let me make this easy for you. And he turns his back to him or whatever. You don't see him actually shoot him. You hear a gunshot go off. You see something break in the distance. They have a funeral for Billy the Kid and everything. And it tells you later on that there was a horse stolen at that point in time. It was Pat Garrett's horse that got stolen. Right. And they said he never stole a horse from anybody he didn't like, which gives you the idea and the hint that Billy the Kid lived through it. Because at the beginning of the movie, there's an old man that wants to get pardoned. And it's supposed to be Billy the Kid.
That is true. Too. Brushy Bill Roberts claimed to be Billy the Kid.
So if you want to go off any person. Right, you go off any reality of the second movie, the reality they're going off was that Billy the Kid was tracked down by Pat Garrett, supposedly, and a man who was older had come out at a certain year and wanted to get clemency from what he did and everything. He wanted to be pardoned like he was promised from the governor back then, which he never got. That none of that part was pertinent to the Lincoln County Wars, so we didn't really talk about this much.
And we're flipping through this too, which there was still. This is still an awesome movie and still totally worth y'all watching for real. Like both of the Young Guns, you got to watch them both. The second one is almost as good as the first one, even though it's like we don't like it as much because you know what I mean, especially after finding out all of the truths and things like that. But the second one is still incredible. There's one part in it where Chavez he takes off down this hill that's just ungodly. You would never in your life try to ride a horse down this hill. He comes down through there. I say, like. When he gets to the bottom there, Dave was like, man, that was amazing. Like, how the hell did you get him to do that? What's that mean anyway? I say. Chavez let us say, it's an ancient Navajo word. It means stop.
Yeah. Didn't work out so well. Yeah. And I was going to say basically what you said a second ago. I was going to say the same thing. It was not as good as the first one because you get the story of the war in the first one and what went on with it. But the second one, to me, the second one was just as good. And when the second one came out, when it first came out, I actually liked it better because it was new and it brought on some new aspects of it. And I was like, man, this is just cool. And the way it worked out at the final stand with Doc and all them, and how Billy got away at the end, and you see
it was in no way for me. It was in no way inferior at any point for me. I've always liked the first one better, but the second one's right there with it.
Yeah, and then you lost all these people along the way. Pat Garrett no longer rode with him, and as far as I knew at the time, Pat Garrett rode with him. I didn't know any different.
Right.
But Pat's turned on him. He's chasing him down. Basically, Doc gets killed. Balthazar Getty's character ends up getting killed because he had Billy's hat on. They thought it was Billy that they were killing, and it wasn't. It was somebody else, and then Chavez died. He took a gut shot at that place, and it slowly killed him.
Chavez allegedly dies. We don't see Chavez allegedly. We don't see him die. We just see the vision of the spirit horse coming for him.
But that's supposed to be telling you he's dead because he tells them when you die, the spirit horse comes to get you.
I'm leading up to something, Chris. Come on, partner, help me out. We technically don't know that that Skurlock is dead either because he got shot up pretty good, but technically we don't know that he's dead. The reason we don't know that all these are dead was because in preparing for this episode, Chris and I was doing some looking around, and we heard from Emilio Estevez's mouth. Well, not we didn't hear. We read that had been stated by that a Young Guns 3 is definitely in the work. There's actually been cover art released for this thing. They're just calling it Guns, and it looks like the young part has been shot out. He's got the bullet holes behind Chris. It's like that, but the young has got all bullet holes in it, so it's supposed to be the guy's older. So written and directed by the same person. It's supposedly will have Kiefer Sutherland and definitely Emilio involved and Lou Diamond Phillips. So this is supposedly definitely in the works. So that's got me excited. So that's why I'm harping on the allegedly died.
If they're going to do this, they better do it. They better do it right in the way, because I mean, I'm not saying right with real life, but right with the movie scenes, the movie story. Because you're right, we didn't see Doc actually take his last breath. We didn't see Chavez actually dead. We just assumed he died and the spirit horse come and took him.
Right, because he was gut shot, and you really don't make it through gut shot.
Doc took a shot that was bad, and several other bullets he took as he came out of the building. But they could have easily taken him on, and he could have been nursed back to health because you're supposed to be a tough guy, you said. Yeah. So maybe they're going to say that could have happened. As far as I'm concerned, if they don't do a Young Guns 3, I'll be okay with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
A Young Guns 3, if it's done correctly, though, would be awesome.
It would be.
I just want to make sure that it's done.
They could make it a cheesy letdown. They could make it a cheesy letdown, but if they do it right, that's like the new Bill and Ted, man. If it wasn't Bill and Ted, it would have been crap. But since it was Bill and Ted, it can
Bill
be
and Ted 3
as they want to be.
Beverly Hills Cop 3.
Yeah,
you could have done without that movie. Okay,
absolutely.
Sometimes they do a sequel just to get more money, and that's what a lot of them are coming out in the upcoming years. We're hearing about. We got a new Lethal Weapon movie coming out in the future, another Beverly Hills Cop coming out in the future.
We don't need those.
We probably don't need these, okay? We could probably do great without them. And, that's all I'm going to say on that, because that's not the show we're doing or anything. I'll leave it at that. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed as much as we did reading up and listening about the Lincoln County Wars. The real true life story of the Lincoln County Wars is interesting on its own.
Yeah.
You should, if you're any kind of a Western fan, look it up. It's very fun.
And it's way crazier and way bloodier than the movies, too.
Yes.
Way worse than the movies.
If they were to ever come out and do an actual movie about the Lincoln County Wars and include the regulators in it, that would be great. You wouldn't have the same people, obviously. But it's like watching Kevin Costner's version of Wyatt Earp versus Kurt Russell's Tombstone.
Exactly.
It would be more truth related to it, and I would find that very awesome to watch. I would watch it in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
So if any producers are watching the show today,
man, that sounds like a great idea. I like that one.
Yeah, we'll take no claim for it or anything. You don't have to pay us for the idea. Just make it and get it out there.
Heck yeah.
And speaking of getting things out there, check us out on social media. We got Instagram, we've got Facebook, we're on TikTok, and just here recently, I did start, and let me just make sure it says Retro Life for you on there, because I did a Twitter Once
Uh-oh.
again,
Tweet.
I have done a Twitter.
Tweet.
I had one in the past for us, and it just
Yeah.
so the name is Retro Life for You, but it's when you're adding, it's not at Retro Life for You. It's at it. My first name, Chris 8, a bunch of numbers afterwards, unfortunately. But if you look up, if you look up Retro Life for You, you can probably see it on there. Regardless, we'll be putting some stuff out on there as well here. So, but follow us on all these areas. We're on YouTube, obviously, as you can see. Subscribe to the channel. Click the bell up there to let you know when we get
comment.
New stuff
get involved. Yeah,
exactly. We love the comments. We love to go back and forth with you guys on these things.
Yeah.
And in the future, there will be some extra content coming out. So clicking the bell at the top is going to be pretty important for you, because it's not just going to be when we upload the stuff for the podcast itself. You'll see some other interesting things from the 80s. The podcast itself, we're trying to keep movie related in some way. So, but we're Retro Life.
Movie or television.
We'll have a lot of stuff out there for you as well. That being said, thanks for tuning into us yet another week and listening to our rambling and our babble going on. And speaking of rambling and babble, Travis, the king of rambling and babble, you got anything you want to say on the way out the door?
Regulators, mount up.